Welcome back to day 2 of the art binge. Today our theme is Name That Tune, and I selected this one because music has always been really important to me. For as long as I can remember, there was always music playing in our house when I was a kid. I think, there were 3 of us, my mom, my dad, and me, and I think probably as soon as I was old enough to have one, there were 3 stereos. Everything from Willie Nelson to Mozart, from Billie Holiday to Alice Cooper, just about anything you can think of would be on a turntable in the house I grew up in. I played classical music for a while as an amateur. I still listen to a lot of different kinds of music now, and with painting, I usually listen to music while I paint. And I have found that I have taken bits and pieces of song lyrics to use as titles for some of my abstract paintings. So it's just been something that's always been with me, and I thought it would be a fun topic to do some art journaling on. So I'm going to show you some pages that I've done in the past, and then we'll work on some things for today. So let me get the camera swapped around. Hang on just a second. This is a spread that I did a while back. The background is done with a stencil that is made to look like a subway map, and I just used some different paints through that. This was just doing some freeform flowers on some different papers. That's actually the inside of a business envelope, and some other papers, just cutting them out. And some of the lyrics that I wrote out are on some scraps of paper that I had made when I was doing some monoprinting with a gelatin plate. And I had some scraps left over, and I used those. And then just a few design elements, going around with the red to pull in from the flowers, and just kind of tying it together. But mostly it was to record some of the lyrics and to just bring together some, a few things that I'd been working on that I was having fun with at the time, the insides of the envelopes, playing with a new stencil that I'd gotten, and bringing together the themes of sort of voyaging, going on a trip. I used to listen to this song a lot, just to kind of get myself geared up to face the day. This is a song called Unsound by a Danish rock group called Betty Servert. It was from an album back in the 90s. I've been listening to it for a couple of decades now, I guess. So that's one example. And then I was in a online art journaling group recently, and they had a prompt about doing a favorite song, and at that time I was obsessed with this song by a group called Joseph called White Flag. And the main chorus from that is, I could surrender, but I'd just be pretending, burn the white flag. And so I just chose one of these backgrounds that I had already done, and I was playing around with some new Posca paint pens, trying those out. And so I drew on a white flag, and then was trying to figure out, what do I want to do for the burning part, and I just kind of messed around with those. So this is a very literal kind of translation of a song lyric that I did for that particular prompt when I was in that particular art journaling group. So very literal, less literal, and then also this is one that was for a prompt about your pet, and this is my dog Harry, and the background here, just some scrapbook paper, and then some paper that I had done some stenciling, I think rubber stamping or stenciling, I think it's stenciling. And one thing that I thought of when I was thinking about my dog, because he's kind of my magic dog, I thought of that Nora Jones song, Man of the Hour. And if you haven't heard it, it's really funny. Basically, she's trying to decide between these 2 guys, and then she starts talking about the one that she's chosen, and you realize pretty quickly that she ditched both of the guys and she actually got herself a dog. So it's a really funny song, and so I put some of the song lyrics on this. So even when I have a prompt that has nothing to do with music, I still end up using music half the time. So those are a few examples of things I've done in the past. A little bit of collage, a little bit of painting and stenciling, and with using the lyrics outright. Of course, you don't have to do that. You can just put on images that remind you of the song. You can do all sorts of things, and we'll talk about that in a minute when we get going in our journals. Hang on just a second. So we've got our blank pages here in front of us. The world is our oyster, so to speak, and depending on what you want to work with, which tools you want to work with, which song you've picked, everything's wide open to you. So you may want to do some collage. If you've picked a song that's popular right now, you can probably find images online on the web. If you have access to a printer, you could print things out. You can do like I did in some of these cases and either print out or write out the song lyrics and add those. You may be able to find images of the people in magazines if you have popular magazines around. There's really a lot of different options you can do. You may also want to just do a more intuitive painting based on how something makes you feel. That's kind of what I'm going to do. I had to think about this because I don't want to get into copyright trouble by using music that I don't have the right to use. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a librarian, and so this kind of stuff's always in my head. But I actually do have the licensing rights to a guy named Ronald Jinkus. His first album, I really like his stuff. He shows up a lot on Pandora's Buddha Bar station. If you like kind of instrumental music, it's really good music to paint to. And so there's a song of his called Neptune, and I'm going to turn it on and just kind of paint along with the music. I'm just using some of the craft paints again. So the 79 cents a bottle, or sometimes you can still get them for 50 cents a bottle at Michael's or Walmart. If you haven't used acrylic paints much, they are very permanent on the page, also on your clothes. They will wash off of your hands or face or wherever you might get them on your skin, but they will be on your clothes forever. Acrylics are good. They're very versatile. You can water them down to the consistency of watercolors, and then there also are ones that come in tubes that are very thick, that are the consistency almost of oil paints, and you can do techniques with them that you would do with oils, like impasto. They're very thick. These are a little bit harder because they're so thin, but you can do texture-y kinds of things with them and really get a lot of paint going and make textures and swirls with them. I started out using watercolors and I really loved them, but once I tried out acrylics, I was hooked. things like this too, I don't mind if the colors blend together a lot, so you don't see me rinsing my brush or switching to a new brush. Obviously, if I was painting something where the colors really mattered, I would be using a different brush technique. So, this is obviously the kind of thing that is not going to be representative, or it's not going to look like something recognizable to anybody but me. But it's fun and it's relaxing, and it's the kind of thing where I could add some words later after it dries. I can write on top of it. It's also the thing where I could have written underneath and then painted over. And that's something I do sometimes too, where I fill up some pages with writing, whether it's kind of like the morning pages from The Artist's Way, or just some, cathartic thinking, stuff that you don't necessarily need to save for posterity. You're not going to refer back to it. And then you can paint over it. And you can let it show through a little bit if you want, or you can totally obliterate it. You know it's there, and you can remember what it was that you thought about or worked through. And then you can let the calming motions of painting swirls over it be part of your process. So that's just one way to do it. I will be very anxious to see what some of you have come up with. I hope you will post in our Facebook page so that we can all be inspired by one another. I'm also hoping that since we'll be in a private group, we can get away with the copyright issue. And I'm hoping that if you have a link from YouTube or wherever, if you feel like it, put up a link to the song that you chose, and we can all maybe expand our playlists as well. Hope you had fun. See you tomorrow.